Yes, students. Yesterday in your NEET exam, some problem in the question paper, right? Some mistake happened. That's why you got 35 questions in chemistry and 100 questions in bio, right? Some students send me some questions which I was not given, some keys wrong. Okay, some 4 to 5 questions they sent me which were keys were wrong. While updating that software, something happened and 30 some 10 questions got reduced in chemistry and 10 more questions added in biology which I was not given to them, right? So that's the problem. So anyways, I will discuss those questions for which the keys went wrong. Okay, I'll discuss now. It was asked by many students, so let me clarify those doubts. Okay, then we can go to the class. Fine. So the first question is one match the following. In microbes in human welfare chapter, one match the following with column 1 and column 2. So let me write that. Hope you all know this. You would have faced this question. One side you have fermentas, then Q is bread, then R is aerobic microbes, then S is Ganga action plan. Only one student sent me it is 100 questions in biology. What about other students? Other students, you didn't notice that? Why nobody tell me you had 100 questions in bio? Only one student, and that too not from batch 2, batch 1 student, batch 1 from batch 1 only. You all noticed, then why didn't you tell me? If you would have told me in the morning itself, immediately you would have changed. No, I got the information only by the evening. Before, some students sent me only the doubts. They didn't tell me 100 questions were there. So some mistake. I don't know where the problem happened. And 10 questions which I was not selected. No, those in chemistry 35 questions and bio 100 questions. Out of 100 questions, only 90 questions were given by me and 10 questions already uploaded in the database that has been added, and that's why you got the keys wrong in those 10 questions. So these questions were not given by me. Okay, fine. Anyways, no problem. Just listen. Fermentas, bread, aerobic microbes, Ganga action plan. These things were given in column 1. And in column 2, the opposite side, the one is Baker's yeast, 2 is large vessel something. Okay, large vessels for growing microbes something was there. And third one is Ministry of Environment and Forest. Ministry of Environment and Forest. And fourth one is flocks. Actually, the correct option was not there in the question. So fermentas, it should be 2. Okay, P is 2. Because fermentas are bioreactors, which is said to be the large container that can hold some thousands of liters of media, right? Large vessels for growing microbes. And bread, for baking and brewing industries, we will use yeast, which is called as baker's yeast. Aerobic microbes are flocks. In the second step, secondary treatment, we will do biological process, right? And in this process, flocculation process occurs, where flocks, bacteria with a fungi, they will form a mesh-like structure. And for this, aerobic microbes will be used. And this Ganga action plan and Yamuna action plan, it comes under Ministry of Environment and Forest. So this is the correct answer. P2, Q1, R4, S3. So such option was not there in the given options. Okay. So this is one question asked by the students. And second one more question key is wrong is superbug. Superbug question. Superbug is actually Pseudomonas putida, right? It is not Bacillus anthrax. That key was there. That is also wrong. Superbug is Pseudomonas putida. It is not Bacillus anthrax. Okay. And the next question that you had doubt is opiate narcotic drugs are. So opiate narcotic drugs, 4 options were given. The first one is antihistamine. Antihistamine will be given to reduce the allergy. Okay. Second one is analgesic. Analgesic is a painkiller. It is a pain reliever. Actually, it will opiate narcotics will act as an analgesic. Okay. And third one is hypnotic. Hypnotism, you know, right? Like making one's mind dominant. Okay. So opiate narcotic drugs will not be given for that. And fourth one is anti-anxiety. Yes, anti-anxiety includes everything. It calm downs, it suppresses your nervous system, it causes euphoria, it will help you in inducing sleep, it acts as a painkiller, everything. Okay, so the correct answer is anti-anxiety and not analgesic. Okay. Then in one more question, the key was wrong is increase in B. This question is also in the additional 10 question. Okay. So the 90 questions, whatever questions key were wrong were not given by me. So it was added from the database directly. Somewhere the mistake has happened. Okay. Listen. The 95th question is increase in BOD of wastewater. You know what is BOD? BOD is biochemical oxygen demand, right? If there is increase in BOD, then there will be decrease in the dissolved oxygen in the water. So answer was given as all of these. All of these is not right. The correct answer is increase in BOD decreases the oxygen content of water. Okay. So it may be in different option for you. So answer is decreases the oxygen content and not all of these. Fine. Yes, I think so. That's it. So these are the questions that were given wrong. Okay. There is mistakes and additional questions. Anyways, like sorry for the inconvenience, so next time it won't happen. Okay, I don't know, that's when they were updating the software, some issues happened. Okay, students, now please listen. Coming week the need portion is organism and population. Already I told you in the last week. Anyways, I am informing you again. Next week, not next week, the coming week Sunday, the need portion is organisms and population, full chapter. Okay, not half and all, full chapter. It is a very small chapter, you can complete it. Already you would have started studying. Okay, I checked the keys of other question were correct. Okay, only these three questions key was wrong. Yes, I don't know ma, next week whether you have met up, that is not yet confirmed. We are waiting for the discussion. We will discuss and then we'll let you know, right? Okay. Now you please start preparing for your this week NEET exam, bio portion is organism and population chapter. Yeah, strategies. Yes, yes. Those questions, additional questions. No, it has taken, like it has automatically uploaded from the database. Yeah, that's what I told you. These questions, these some 5 6 questions were for which the keys were wrong, and then some 4 questions came from strategies for enhancement in food production. Okay, so those were not actually, it is not in the syllabus. Somewhere the mistake happened, I think so. Fine. So next, like we can go to the concept. Okay, Friday, what we were discussing, I gave you the introduction of population interaction. Do you remember, students? We discussed about what are the things we are going to study under this population interaction. So you know what is population interaction? Interaction is going to take place between the living organisms, because no living organism can live in isolation. Okay, so every living organism is dependent on some other living organism. In that way, the associations can be either beneficial, which can be denoted by the letter like the symbol plus. Sometimes the association may be harmful, which can also be called as detrimental, and it will be denoted as minus. And sometimes it may be neutral. Neutral in the sense neither beneficial nor harmful, and neutral is represented as 0. Okay, right. And under based on these different interspecific association or interaction, we are going to discuss some 6 important population interaction. I gave you one table on Friday. So please take the table. Under this, we are going to see one by one. The first one, what I gave you is parasitism. Yes. So parasitism, in parasitism, what will happen? One organism will get benefited and the other one will get affected. So what will be the combination of symbols? One will be benefited and other one will be affected. It is plus minus combination. Okay. That can be anything. This plus can be, you can write it this plus in the second part also. Not a problem. Anyways, one organism is going to be benefited by the other organism and the second organism will be affected. Got it? Fine. So now I will give, first of all, I will tell you what is this parasitism concept. Then I will give you some live examples for this parasitism. Fine. In this parasitism, this is also said to be one of the population interaction. And in this interaction, you know, one species, any one species, when two species are having interaction with one another, the one which we call it as parasite. Among the two species, one of them will be called as the parasite and the other one will be called as the host, right? And the one which is called as parasite is benefited. Always the parasite is benefited and the other species, which we call it as host, and this will be harmed or affected or something, you can say. So this is plus and this is minus. This is the main concept of your parasitism. Okay. And whenever you talk about parasitism, this parasite will depend on the host for two important reasons. One is for food, another one is for shelter. So when you talk about parasitism, you can give one statement that is called as, for food you can say free meals. The parasite will take free meals from the host, and shelter no, and for that you can say free lodging. You know what you mean by lodge, right? Accommodation. So free meals and free lodging is the concept of your parasitism, and many parasites are host specific. Host specific means that particular parasite will be depending on that particular host alone. Okay. Many parasites are host specific, while others no, some the remaining parasite no, it can live in any type of host. So it don't have any like perfect host and all. Okay. So but most of the parasites no, they will be very specific in the host. Few parasites they can live in any host. Now the host evolve special mechanism to reject or resist the parasite. Sometimes you can see the host in the sense the organism where the parasite is living. These hosts evolve special mechanism. So what type of special mechanism do they evolve? For what purpose they will have this special mechanism? To reject or resist. Reject in the sense it will not allow the parasite to enter. Okay, usually. Resist in the sense like even if the parasite enters, the host will get used for that parasite to live in their body. Okay, so host will evolve some special mechanism to either reject or resist the parasite, and the parasite on the other hand, it also evolves the mechanism to counteract and neutralize the effect. Okay, so when one organism is evolving some mechanism to fight against it, the opposite organism will also have some reaction, right? They will also evolve some mechanism to fight against them. So similarly, when host is evolving special mechanism, parasites also evolve some mechanism. Parasites also evolve some mechanism on the other hand for to, that is to counteract. What do you mean by counteract? Counteract means in action, they to show some reaction. Uh, in return, the parasites also evolve some mechanism to counteract and neutralize the effect. Neutralize the effect in the sense, for example, I'll tell you a very simple thing. In human body, in our stomach, HCl is secreted, right? So what is the purpose of HCl? It will protect your epithelial cells from, HCl, it will kill the microorganisms. When you eat the food, the microorganisms that enter into the stomach, it will be killed in the acidic medium, right? But all microorganisms are not being killed by HCl. If all microorganisms, whatever you intake is being killed by HCl, then we will not be affected with disease. For example, if you take cholera, typhoid, paratyphoid, then like many other digestive tract disorders we discussed, right? So only when they are not killed by HCl, then they are causing infection. So you can give such example. Host evolving some special mechanism to reject or resist the parasite. Example, HCl secretion in our body. Okay. But parasites, they also evolve some mechanism to counteract it. That is to neutralize the effect that is done by the host. In such way, you can see some bacteria and some virus, they are highly resistant. They cannot be easily killed in the acidic medium of your stomach, and so they can cause the infection. Okay. So this is how the parasite will finally, it will causes the effect in the human body or any other organism in which they are living. So let me tell you some of the adaptations where the parasite will have for their survival. I told you the parasites know it will have some adaptations or some counteract mechanism to neutralize the effect. Let me discuss some of them. I'm going to tell parasites follow special adaptation. Adaptation means for them to survive in the host, okay, for them to survive inside the host body, they will have some special adaptation. What are those special adaptations? I will list out some special adaptations how the parasite will survive in a host living body. Okay, the first one is loss of unnecessary sense organs. So the parasites have some special adaptations for their survival in the host. For their survival in the host body. Okay. So the first one is loss of unnecessary sense organs. Okay. So this is one of the adaptation followed by parasite. When talking about parasite, don't think only about microorganism, because worms can also, you would have studied in platyhelminthes, ascalminths, they will occur as parasite and they will cause diseases. We studied example, right? Filariasis, Ascariasis is. So parasite in the sense whichever organism, whichever living organism that lives in another living organism body can be called as a parasite. Okay. Loss of unnecessary sense organs. And then you can see in worms, to suck the blood from the body, they will have some special hooks or suckers. Presence of hooks or suckers or any other adhesive organ. So what do you mean by adhesive? Adhesive means going and attaching with something. Okay. So for strong fixing, they will have some adhesive organs to attach to the host body. This is also one of the adaptation that the parasite will have to survive in the host body. Okay. Of course, whichever organism lives in our body and causes diseases, then it is called as a parasite. Then obviously corona is also a parasite. Yeah. Then now the third adaptation is loss of digestive system. Those parasites know they will not have, sometimes, not in all cases, sometimes one of the adaptation followed by the parasite is they will lose the digestive system. And the parasites which lives in the host body, they will have high reproductive capacity. The reproductive ability will be higher for the parasites. And then you can say the parasites will have complex life cycle. So what do you mean by complex life cycle? Having 2 or more hosts. While studying Plasmodium, we studied Plasmodium in Human Health and Disease. Do you remember? Plasmodium, while studying the microorganisms, we studied some are monogenetic and some are digenetic. Plasmodium is digenetic because it undergoes its partial life cycle in mosquito body and partial life cycle in human body. That is asexual reproduction in human and sexual reproduction in mosquito. So like in this way, if they are having 2 or more hosts, then you can call that particular organism is having complex life cycle. So these are some of the adaptation. Like this, you have so many adaptations. I just want to tell like some adaptations which help the parasite to survive in the host body, right? And majority of the parasites know they will harm the host by reducing their growth, reproduction, survival, and population density. Most of the parasites will affect the host or harm the host because it is sharing the food of the host. It is sharing the shelter, okay, and it also suck the nutrients from your body. So in all these cases, in turn, it will also causes diseases. So it will affect the host mostly parasites will be affecting the host. And sometimes they may also make the host physically weak and vulnerable to predation. Okay, this will also occur. I will write it in the third slide. So parasites, parasites harm the host. Harm. How it will harm? By reducing the growth of the host. It will affect the growth of the host, okay, as it is sharing the food. Then when it is reproduced, it will also affect the reproduction process. Sometimes it also affects the survival of the host. Fine. So all these are done by the parasites when it is living inside the host body, and sometimes the parasites may make the host make the host physically weak. Physically weak means when you are affected with a disease, can you be active? Automatically your body will be very tired, you will feel fatigue, and you will be physically inactive, right? That is what the point. The parasites may make the host physically weak and vulnerable vulnerable to predation. What do you mean by vulnerable? It will make the host very easy for the predators to intake them. Okay. Once when you see, if you think like if an animal becomes very weak, it cannot escape from the predator. Then it will be easily caught by the predator and it will be eaten up by the predator. So the population of the particular host will get reduced. Okay. So that is what this point is mentioning. The parasites may make the host physically weak. Once the host becomes physically weak, it cannot easily escape from the predator. It will be vulnerable means easily available to the predator. Okay. So the predator of that particular host will take away the organism and it will eat away the organism. So the population of the particular host will get reduced. And when talking about this parasites, we have three different types. I'll tell you what are the three different types of parasites. Two different types you may already know. One is the ectoparasite, second one is the endoparasite, and third one is the brood parasite. Ectoparasite, endoparasite, and brood parasite. Okay. So, like before going to this, I will show you the first three slides. This is the first slide. You just copy all the notes. Then I will explain what is ectoparasite, endoparasite, and brood parasite with examples. So the first slide. See, in all these types of population interaction, first you should know what happens in this population interaction. The living organisms which are interacted with one another know for what purpose they are interacting, when they are having such interaction, whether they are benefited or harmed, how they are benefited, how they are harmed, and then you have to conclude with examples. These are the concepts you have to cover under each type of population interaction. Got it? So I have copied the first slide. Second one. This is the second one. See, why sense organ is disadvantage of the parasite. Sense organ know usually what is the role of your sense organ. If any stimuli come, it will immediately show the response. Right? So when the parasite is living inside the host body, if any the environmental factor present inside the host, if they are acting as stimuli, the sense organs know it cannot show the response to that. So there will be mostly loss of unnecessary. That's why I'm telling unnecessary sense organs, not simply sense organs. Some sense organs which are not needed by them, that is when living inside the host body, those sense organs will be functional only when they are living outside the host, when they are present in the environmental factors. When living inside the host, such sense organs may not be useful. So they will lose all those sense organs, unnecessary sense organs which is not needed for living inside a host body. Got it? So this is the third slide. Yeah, some unnecessary sense organs I will tell you. For example, if you take in amoeba, pseudopodia, okay, pseudopodia and amoeba histolytica, actually it is causing amoebic dysentery, right? So when it enters into the body, it can directly suck the nutrients from your blood. It need not to take the food particle. Loss of digestive system also similar. See, mostly the parasites when they are living inside the host body, they will suck the nutrients directly from your blood. They need not to ingest the food, they need not to digest it and then absorb it and assimilate it. Everything, the nutrients will be available in the host body in the form of maybe the nutrients will be present in the blood or in the body fluid or in the lung, something else. Okay. So when these parasites when they are living inside the host body, they will not eat away the food particle what you are eating. Suppose if a roundworm is there in your intestine, you just think the roundworm which is present outside the living organism, there it will take the ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, all system will be followed up regularly. But the parasite which is present inside the living organism, it is going to directly suck the nutrient from your body. When directly it is getting nutrient, there is no need of digestive system, right? Whenever an organ or organ system is not used by the organism, it will become vestigial or it will become disappear. Even in human body, initially early man had a long tail, as we are like as our ancestors are monkeys. Okay, but we need not the tail is actually functionless for human. Later, what happened? Slowly, we adapted when we are getting adapted to the particular environment. The tail length got shortened, and in one stage it got completely disappeared, and it is now said to be vestigial. Like so many vestigial organs are there in your body. Similarly, when a parasite is living inside a host, if it is not needed of digestive system or any other sense organ, those organs or organ system will become vestigial. Got it? Can you understand, students? Fine. So have you copied till third slide? Shall I explain you what is ectoparasite? Yeah, lice is a parasite. Lice is a parasite. Lice comes under ectoparasite because it is outside your body, right? Fine. I will tell you the examples. Wait. So first one, first let me explain about what is ectoparasite. I told you 3 different parasites we are going to discuss: ectoparasites, endoparasites, and brood parasites. Ecto, always you know ectoderm. So many places you have studied about ecto. Ecto means outer, endo means inner. Similarly, ectoparasites know they live or they feed on the external surface of the host. They live or they feed on the external surface of the host. They will not be present deep inside your body. That is, your in the sense not only human, deep inside any other living organism body, they will be living on the outer surface of the host. That is what we call it as external surface of the host. So the most familiar examples of ectoparasites are, one is lice, the very good example, lice you know, and then yes, lice on the head of human. And then have you heard bedbug? Bedbug. Then you would have seen ticks, small insects in the dogs and all. Dogs, cats, they will have this. We call them as unnipuchi. Yes. So if the ticks attack the dogs or cats, they will get affected with some fever. Okay. So ticks on dogs, and then leeches. Leech will be present on cattle organisms. Okay. So all these, etc. Like you have so many examples for ectoparasites, but these are the common examples. Okay, fine. Now, can you say mosquitoes can be considered as ectoparasites? Can you say mosquitoes as ectoparasites? Yeah, jawless fish on the surface of big fishes. I ask you one question. Can we say mosquitoes as ectoparasites? Mosquitoes are ectoparasites, but they are not true ectoparasites. Okay, I will tell you why. Why mosquitoes can be called as ectoparasite but not true ectoparasites? Because mosquitoes, what they will do? They will come and feed your, that is, they will drink your blood, right? They take only, mosquitoes take only the food from your body. That is, which means only meal from the host, and not lodging, and do not, it will not permanently stay in your body, right? Permanently they will stay over your skin. No, not like that. So only if a parasite is taking food and accommodation both from the host, then they are called as true ectoparasites. True parasites. Okay. So coming to ectoparasites, as they are living outside the surface, mosquitoes take only meal and not lodging. So they are not, mosquitoes are not true ectoparasites. You can call it as ectoparasite, but not true. Because as they are taking meal, you can call it as ectoparasite. But it is not true ectoparasite. For ectoparasites, I will give you one more example in plants. So in plants, you would have studied in your smaller classes. Cuscuta, have you studied? The common example in plant is for ectoparasite is cuscuta, which has lost cuscuta. No, it do not have chlorophyll, and leaves also. It do not possess leaves also during evolution, and it parasite cuscuta parasites hedge plants. It will always live in the body, not inside, outside. That's why it is coming under ectoparasite. It will be always in attachment with hedge plants because cuscuta by nature, by means of evolution, it do not possess leaves and it do not have chlorophyll pigment. How then they will do photosynthesis? They cannot perform, right? So they will be depending on some other plant for the food. So cuscuta lives on hedge plants for the food, and so this cuscuta is an example for this ectoparasite. Okay. Yes, some other parasites. So many examples are there. Let me tell you some other parasites for this ectoparasites. Some other ectoparasites are copepods. Okay, copepods is one example. Petromyzon, petromyzon and hagfishes. They are always in communication. Hagfish, okay. So copepods, petromyzon, hagfishes, all these, no, they, for all these organisms, actually these are all parasites. And for these all organisms, what is the host is marine fish, big marine fishes. Some big marine fishes, they will go and attach with these big marine fishes, and it is the host, and these are all ectoparasites. Copepods, petromyzon, hagfish, all these are ectoparasites. That's all about, sorry, ectoparasites is over. Next I have to discuss about endoparasitism. Fourth slide, ectoparasites, please copy. Fourth and fifth slide, you just copy, ma. Then I will discuss with the remaining thing. Ah, yeah, they all comes under cyclostoma. Yes. Jawless fishes. Fourth one copy. So this is fifth one. So now we can discuss endoparasites. Endo is inner, right, which are present deep inside the body. I don't want to give examples because in human health and disease chapter, whatever diseases you studied, no, all are endoparasites. Fine. So everything is endoparasite. So endoparasites, when talking about endoparasites, you can say they live inside the body of the host. Inside the body, it can live anywhere in your reproductive system or in your digestive system or circulatory system, respiratory system, anywhere they can live. Okay. And these endoparasites, no, they have this morphological and anatomical features, have very simple morphological and anatomical features will be present. So I'll tell you some of the characters of these endoparasites. These endoparasites will have morphological and anatomical simple features. Features will be very simple, and then these life cycle, these organisms, no, they will have a complex life cycle. Okay, and as I said, the reproductive potential will be high. The reproductive potential for these organisms will be high. They can be monogenetic, they can be digenetic. You know what is monogenetic, what is digenetic. All the diseases, whatever you studied in human health, I think, like, I don't want to list down. Anyways, I'll tell you. Ascaris, roundworm, which causes ascariasis. Then ant amoeba, which causes amoebiasis. Then okay, these are example for monogenetic. Okay. These two are example for monogenetic parasites. I'll give few examples for digenetic. Tapeworm, Taenia solium S. Taenia, which is commonly called as tapeworm, and then liver fluke. You know what is the biological name of liver fluke? Animal kingdom, do you remember everyone? Fasciola hepatica. Okay, liver fluke, and then you studied Plasmodium vivax, and all other species. Okay, all these are said to be digenetic parasites. Like this, whatever you studied in human health and disease, you can give example. I am writing few examples here. Filarial worm causes filariasis, Wuchereria bancrofti. Okay, so all these are examples for digenetic. That's all about endoparasites. Endoparasites already we have studied there in the previous chapter. That's why I'm not giving more information, because all these you know very well. What are the diseases caused by these organisms, and in these diseases what are the symptoms that will appear, what is the infective stage, everything we studied there. Okay. Now the last type of parasite is the brood parasite. So this is a different one. You would have studied this, but I don't know how many of you will you remember this. Okay, brood. Okay, actually, what is this brood parasite? No, actually, the bird cuckoo, you know, right? Cuckoo bird, which is also called as quail. Okay, so cuckoo or quail. So this is said to be actually here. This is an example for brood parasite. So what happens in this cuckoo bird or quail bird, right? See, they lays the eggs in the nest of a host, which is called as crow. In ecto and endoparasites, the thing is like actually they will suck the blood, they will take the food and accommodation from the host organism. But in case of this brood parasite, it is slightly different. What is the difference is, these birds, cuckoo, which is also called as quail, this is the parasite here, and the host is going to be, the host is crow. What these cuckoo or quail will do, they will lay the eggs in the nest of the host, because they don't know how to build the nest. This bird don't know how to build the nest, so it will lay their eggs in the nest of the host is crow. Okay, and this crow know it will incubate the eggs of the cuckoo bird. It will incubate the eggs, incubate them. Okay, and the eggs of the parasitic bird, no, actually the eggs of the parasitic bird, cuckoo bird, it has evolved the resemblances with the hosts. See, in birds you can see each of the eggs of the different bird, no, it will be in different texture. In some birds you can see it will be white in color and some black colored dots will be there. Some will be light yellow, some will be brown in color, some will be yellow in color. So based on that eggshell, the bird will be able to find it out whether it is own eggs or not. But in case of this condition, the eggs of the crows and the eggs of the cuckoo, no, both resemble similar. Okay, both they have evolved the resemblances. The eggs of the parasitic bird cuckoo have evolved resemblances with the egg of the host, that is crow, in color and shape and size. So that is the reason crow cannot differentiate its own eggs and the cuckoo's eggs, and it will start brooding. Some in such cases what happens, sometimes the crow may fail to incubate its own eggs and it will incubate only the cuckoo's eggs. And while laying the eggs in the nest of the crow, no, the cuckoo, what it will do, it will just throw away the eggs of the crow and it will put the eggs, its own eggs, in the nest. So without knowing the difference, the crow will start incubating the cuckoo's eggs, okay, instead of its own eggs. So that what happens, the host will be affected here. The young ones of the crows will be affected and the parasite will get benefited. In this way, it is also said to be one of the parasite, and that is called as brood. You know, in bird, what is brooding process? After laying eggs, till the young ones come out from the eggs, no, that particular incubation period is called as brooding period, and that's why the name of the parasite is called as brood parasite. So what is the case here is, the eggs of the parasitic bird, it not only happens in cuckoo, it happens in so many birds, but the best known example is this one. That's why I'm giving this example. the eggs of the parasitic bird has evolved some resemblances. Some resemblances with the host one, with the host eggs in color, shape, and also in size. As they are like having the resemblances in everything, the crow, it will not know that it is not its own eggs. Okay, without knowing, it will start brooding the eggs of the cuckoo bird, and finally the young ones of the host will get affected because of this brood parasite. Okay, so this is one example for this brood parasite. We just copy this. By this, the parasitism is over. Next, we are going to discuss what is the second thing yesterday I gave you on Friday. Next to parasitism, mutualism, right? So it is a well-known example, well-known interaction you know very well. Finished? Yeah, how does crow's eggs get affected in the sense I told you, no, like actually the crow will build the nest for laying the eggs. Okay, for this brooding, it will just build the nest. Okay, now what happens when the cuckoo is going to lay the eggs in the nest of the crow? In the absence of the mother bird, the cuckoo will put down all the crow's eggs. It will throw away the crow's eggs and it will lay its own egg. Okay, and the crow know when the mother bird return to the nest, it will not be aware of that it is cuckoo's young ones, cuckoo's eggs. Okay, so it will start brooding those eggs, and the young ones of the crows will get affected by this. When it throw away the egg, or the egg will like it will get broken. Okay, so broken, and the young ones cannot see. Birds, they have to incubate the young ones properly in the incubation period, or else the young ones will die. In that way, it will be affecting the host. Fine, shall we move on to the second type of population interaction? The second type what we are going to discuss is mutualism. Already you have studied lot of examples in mutualism, and like you know this concept very well. Okay, in mutualism, what is the interaction between the two organism or two or more organism? All the organisms will be mutually benefited. Okay, so when two organisms are interacting mutually in this mutualism concept, or you can call it as a symbiosis concept, the interaction can also be called a symbiosis relationship. Okay, both the organism will be benefited by the each one of them. Okay, so each other they will get benefited by this. Some beneficial things will be there. So this interaction, in this interaction, both the species, if two species are interacting with one another, both the species are benefited. And that's why in this relationship, both the organism are having plus plus. Okay. Lichens will not come under parasite. Lichens will come under mutualism. In lichens, both are benefited, no? Which is, you cannot say. See, when both organisms are benefited, you cannot differentiate as a parasite or host. Only in parasitism, you will use the word, this is parasite and this is host. The one which is benefited is parasite, and the other which is harmed or affected will be host. In mutualism, you cannot say like which is parasite or which is host. It is two different organisms. That's it. Okay. So the lichens is such relationship. You know very well from your smaller classes, from your 6th class, you are studying about this lichens, right? So in lichens, the relationship between the fungi and the photosynthetic algae or photosynthetic cyanobacteria. So what is the relationship in lichens? Algae and fungi. This algae can be a photosynthetic algae, that is your green algae, or it may be BGA. What is BGA? Blue-green algae, which we call it a cyanobacteria. So either photosynthetic algae or blue-green algae will have a symbiotic relationship with the fungi organism in case of this lichens, And another one you know very well is mycorrhiza, which we recently studied in microbes in human welfare chapter. Mycorrhizae. Okay, this is also a similar association. Here, fungus organism will be associated with the roots of higher plants. We studied how this mycorrhiza will help. That is, will be helping each other. Okay. So fungi is heterotrophic. It will depend upon the plants for food, and fungi will break down the insoluble nutrients into soluble form, so the plants can intake through the roots, and it will be using them for the growth and development. Okay. So mycorrhiza is again another example. Fungi is it helps the plants in absorption of essential nutrients. Fungi will help the plants in absorption of nutrients from the soil, you know very well. In turn, plant, how it will help the fungi? It will provide food to the fungi, because fungi is a heterotrophic organism, right? And you would have studied, the first time mutualism concept evolved in plant animal association. Okay, in plant animal association there has occurred this co-evolution of mutualism. I will tell you how. In many species of fig trees, you know fig, right? Atiparam, you know, right? In many species of fig trees there is a close one-to-one relationship. This mutualism relationship in particular, it is called as one-to-one relationship. This is called as a close one-to-one relationship with whom? This is plant. Species of fig trees is plant, and it is having a mutual relationship with an animal, and that animal is an insect, that is with species of wasp. You know wasp? Bundle, right? So wasp for pollination. So this wasp will help the plants for pollination, and in return, how the wasp will get benefited? So the female wasp, no, the female wasp, it pollinates the fig inflorescence. You know what is inflorescence? It pollinates the fig inflorescence, while how it will pollinate in the sense, while searching for suitable place for its egg laying process. For suitable place for egg laying. Female wasp, no, it will go and search each and every flower while searching that place for laying their eggs in the fig inflorescence. Unknowingly, the female wasp will pollinate. How? When it is sitting over the flower, the pollen grains will get attached, or it will get attracted, and it will get deposited over the legs of the female wasp. And when this female wasp is sitting over the other fig inflorescence, it will leave deposit the pollen grains. Thereby, the female wasp will help in pollination. Now, how this female wasp will get pollinated, right? I told you they will search the place for egg laying process. In this way, the female wasp, she means I am representing the female wasp, okay? So she lays the eggs inside the fruit. It will lays the eggs inside the fruit. Once fertilization is done, there will be fruit development, right? In the fig plant, fruit, after the development of fig fruits, it will lay the eggs inside the fruit, and the seeds of the fruit will be consumed by the seeds of the fruit will be consumed after laying eggs. It will start metamorphosis, right? It will undergo metamorphosis development, and the developing larvae will consume the seeds present in the fruit. Okay, developing larvae of whom? Of the wasp. See, the plant is getting benefited by this wasp by through this pollination. So the female wasp, when it is searching a place for laying the eggs in the fig inflorescence, it will take away the pollen grains, and it will transfer the pollen grains to the other flower, and in that way the plant is getting benefited by this insect. And how the insect is getting benefited when by helping in pollination, when it is searching the place for laying the egg, once it will find a place called as, that is the fruit will be suitable place for laying the eggs, and it will lay the eggs inside the fruit, and the eggs, it will undergo metamorphosis process inside the fruit. While metamorphosis is taking place, the development of larva from the egg, it will consume the seeds present inside the fig fruit. So both, and in both this female wasp and fig tree, this is animal and this is plant. So this plant and animal are getting mutually benefited. So it can also be called as a mutualism. Okay. And I'll give you one more example. Some plants, for this plant animal relationship, I'll tell you one more example. Some plants have evolved special adaptive structures for pollination by insects. Some plants have evolved special structures for pollination. You studied, right? Some in insect pollination, what are the special adaptive structures present in the plants? They will possess attractive color, their nectar, okay? Pollen will act as a food for the insects, all these, okay? So for pollination by insects, like, who's the very good best pollinator? Bees, butterflies, and bumblebees, bumblebees, honeybees, all those things, etc. Okay. And to ensure guaranteed pollination, one example I will tell you, this is a very, very important example for your NEET exam and also for your board, the Mediterranean orchid. Mediterranean orchid. You know what is orchid plants, right? So it is called as Ophrys. The Mediterranean orchid is called as Ophrys. It employs sexual deceit. It employs sexual deceit. So what happened? What is meant by this sexual deceit? I will tell you. In this plant, one petal of the flower resembles very closely with the female of the bees in shape, color, and image. Okay. So one petal of the flower of this plant. In this orchid plant, one petal of the flower. The petals, brightly colored part of the flower. This petal, one petal of the flower resembles very closely. Very closely means like it mostly the petal of the flower, it resembles the female of the bee. It resembles the female of the bee in shape, color, and also markings. Markings, what is meant by markings? In bees, over the body of the bees, some markings will be there, like dots or something. Some designs will be appearing, right? Exactly, the markings also resemble in that particular petal of the flower. Now, what happens because of this? The male bee, it perceives the petal. It perceives the petal. Perceives means it will think. It will take the petal of the flower as female bee, because that petal is exactly resembling the female bee shape, color, and markings. No, so the male bee will perceive the petal of the flower as female bee, and it will go and sit over the flower, petal of the flower, and it attempts pseudo copulation. Pseudo copulation. What do you mean by copulation? Is sexual intercourse. Okay. The male bee, it will think that flower of the flower as a female bee, because the petal of that particular flower, it resembles the female bee. So the male bee thinks it is a female bee, and it will sit over that, and it will attempt pseudo copulation with the flower. Actually, it is not female bee. It is a flower. Okay, with the flower. And during this process, what happens? The pollen grains, when the male bee sits over that flower, the pollen grains are dusted over the body. It will go and adhere to the body of the male bee. When the same male bee pseudocopulates with other flowers, the pollen grains are transferred. Okay, so when the male bee pseudocopulates, like when it thinks like other petals also like female bee, and when it go and sit over them, pseudocopulates, try to pseudocopulate over them, then automatically the pollen grains will be transferred. The pollen grains which has been sticked over to the male bee, no, the pollen grains will be transferred to the other flowers. Unknowingly, this helps in the male bee helps in pollination process. So this is a very good, fascinating example. This is said to be a fascinating means exaggerated example. Okay, fascinating example of co-evolution. Co-evolution means out of these two organisms, out of this Ophrys and this bee, if any one organism become extinct, the other one will also become extinct, and that is called as co-evolution. In co-evolution, both the organisms will be dependent on each other. So this co-evolution is in between orchid, that orchid plant, and also bee, which is maintaining a close relationship in color pattern, in their shape, in their size, in marking, everything they are maintaining a resemblance, right? And that is called as co-evolution. When if Ophrys plant become extinct, automatically the bee of that particular variety will also become extinct. Okay, because that female bee and the petal of the flower will have a very close relationship in the shape, size, marking, color pattern, everything. And so the male bee will think the petal of the petal of the flower as a female bee, and it will just sit over that for pseudocopulation process. Unknowingly, the pollen grains will be attracted, and the pollen grain will be carried over by the male bee, and when it sits over the other flower for pseudocopulation, the pollen grains will be transferred and it will help in the pollination process. Okay. Why bee has no use with the orchid plant? It is the pollen and the nectar what they are taking. It will be food for them, no? It is taking food for them, no ma. So it will also get benefited. Okay. Under this mutualism, co-evolution is a special concept. Okay, because in all cases mutualism will not come under examples for co-evolution. This is example for co-evolution. Why? Because this is video slides are not shown, ma. Slides, you are not able to see the slides. Students, can you respond? Are you able to see the slides or not? One student has texted me, video has been stopped. Is it so? You are able to see, right? Okay. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Fine. So mutualism concept is over with this. Let us stop here. Reminding we have some 4 concepts, right? Those 4 concepts we can complete tomorrow. Tomorrow we can complete this chapter. The other 4 concepts are very easy. We can complete it soon. Only parasitism and mutualism will take time because we should see many examples under this. Yeah, I will show you all the slides from the beginning. You can copy the notes. The first one, we have last 1 more minute. So please take the notes. Second one. Third one. Students, I just want to ask you one thing. Audio is clear? Audio is clear or it is lagging? Clear. Fine. Yeah, thank you. Because my headphone is not working. I'm taking without headphone. That's why I'm asking. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. So this is third one. Third slide. Students, coming Friday, okay, that is before your NEET exam. Friday, I will discuss some questions from organism and population chapter. Okay, as we discussed for microbes, human health and disease, last week we had some discussion, right? Similarly, I will do some 15 to 20 questions discussion for 20 minutes or half an hour on Friday. It will be easy for you to like how you will get questions in this chapter organism, because it is completely a theory chapter, right? So you may have some doubts how you will get questions from this chapter. That will give you an idea so that it will be easy for you for the preparation of your Sunday NEET exam. Okay, last day of this week we will have a discussion in this chapter. This is fourth slide. Fifth one. Sixth one. Seventh. Please start reading from today onwards. Don't postpone your preparation, okay? Eighth one. This is ninth slide. Parasitism and mutualism, both these interactions are very important. You'll always be like always you may get one question from your NEET for your NEET exam from these two concepts. So please read all the examples now, whatever examples I am giving you for the different types of population interaction. No, please read all the examples. You will get question only based on the examples. They will give you one interaction between two organisms and they will ask you to choose what type of interaction it is. And this is the last slide, 11th one. Yeah, next term exam, I'm not aware of it, ma. I will ask and I will tell you tomorrow. Okay. Not term exam. Next exam you will be writing quarterly exam. I think so. Yeah, students, copied all the slide. You want any of the slides to be shown again? First slide. Wait, I'll show you. So this is the first slide. Yes, time is forward. Like it is like more than 5 minutes. Fourth one. Yeah. So this is fourth one. So go and refresh, eat something and get ready for the next class. Okay, thank you so much. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.